So, welcome. We have lots of folks registered for this call, and they haven't all arrived yet. So we can all point fingers at them when they come on and go "Buh, buh, 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 buh," and some preemptive blame. I am. I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned about discerning, particularly discerning anger and fear. And what does it matter? Why should we have any discussion or any exploration of anger and fear? I've experienced people having mythologies about anger, especially that if you're angry, it means that. And so I'd love for you to just, surface the myths that you have in your mind and body about anger as I'm sharing some of the ones that I've heard. Um, Enlightened people don't get angry. And so if you're angry, it means there's something fundamental that needs to be looked at. And it's also kind of, now, if you're angry, it means something is out of balance. If you're angry, it means that you don't have access to your higher self. So there's a sense that anger is part of our lower self, and that when you ascend to your higher self, you transcend anger. Uh, and anger, I think we confuse with being civil to people and having the possibility of communicating with other people, that anger gets in the way. And Not allowing people to be angry, especially prohibiting women from being angry, I think is part of the patriarchal control, not just of women, but of our relationships with each other, with men and women, with society. Because if a what's that old saying about if a if a man feels like you're angry at him, he may have to apologize. But if a woman feels you're angry at her, she's afraid she's going to be killed. So there's a difference. There's a big difference between who gets to get angry. So just do a little review of your growing up, and of your relationships, and the kinds of messages that you learned about who gets to be angry, and and what are the rules about being angry. So there's so much of, if you can't be nice, just don't say anything. That's another one of those mythologies. So I wanted to explore the legitimacy of anger, both from a physiological and a neurological perspective, but also what is the value of anger? Why have we had anger wired in for thousands of years, just like we have fear wired in for thousands of years? So, yesterday, it's so great. I've been finding such support and synchronicity on social media. And just yesterday, I found an Instagram by Maya Angelou about anger that I had never seen before. And so I wanted to show this to you as we're getting going, so that you can have a sense of some of the legacy of anger. So if you can pull that up, Michelle, that would be great.
Did that work?
Yeah, it's there.
Oh,
You just
good,
need
because
to
it
start it.
yeah. Let me see if the sound works, because Zoom asked me a question, so I'll see if it's going to work.
Okay.
Well, it is obvious that bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host.
Oh, now it went away.
It burns out all the dross and all the stuff. And I think it's wise to show it, to be opposed to injustice at all times for anybody. I think that's wise. I think I know that as soon as I feel myself insulted, the person who has insulted me is the second to know. As soon as I know, I say, hey, stop. Just a minute. Come here. I beg your pardon. You won't do that to me. That is your affair. Don't put that poison on me. I will not have it. So that's much healthier. And fortunately, it is creative. And that thing which is creative has a productive result. Well, it is obvious that
And isn't that beautiful? That and the phrase that I really loved about it is, "I will not have it. I will not have it." And it was reminding me of some Britishisms where I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. And, that sense of it's not necessarily what you would call a boundary, but I loved us being able to experience Maya Angelou in her fullness, in her muchness, because she's out to the edges of herself, and the sense of, hey, come here, I need to talk to you. That's not happening here. That kind of, which is so beautifully demonstrated. And as I've seen in my life, is beautifully demonstrated by Black women, especially. And somehow, white women, it seems part of the, maybe it's the trad wife tradition, or trying to take us back to the 1950s. And I was there in the 1950s, and I just want you to know that's no place that anybody should ever want to go back to, because it was very much father knows best and the white apron. And so you can imagine that anger was just not part of that. So what is the value of anger? And how do we distinguish anger from fear? So that's all part of what I wanted to share with you tonight. And before I jump into that, I want to see if anybody had any reactions to the Maya Angelou clip. There's anything that you wanted to share about that, or anything that came up for you, any connections, so that we're all, yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, I noticed that when I heard her, I immediately felt more here and more strong. It was like I immediately osmosed that strength and
Yeah.
that power.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I was getting also is the total openness of her resonance, of her voice. So there was no blocking, there was no debris, there were no cross currents in her voice. And when I hear that, I know that a person has owned all of their feelings and are completely comfortable with both experiencing and sharing feelings. And the other thing I experienced, like you did, Michelle, was this sense of power, in some traditions they call the hara, your dantian, your top of your pelvis, is both where deep anger resides, but it's also where your power resides. And so if you're not open to experiencing your anger, you're then often not able to mobilize your power. So yes, and we can also osmose from each other. So if someone is really, in there, and she was balanced about it, she didn't get hysterical, she wasn't foaming at the mouth, she was just very clearly responding to an injustice. And that was the other thing that I noted. That anger, I've got something coming in.
I was noticing that.
I'm going to just move over a little bit because I don't want to go over and shut the blinds. That if I'm in my power, and anger is fundamentally a response to an injustice. And we forget that, because part of what people say is that, you're just being hysterical, or you're overreacting, or it's not that bad. And, people respond better to honey than vinegar. And, all of those things, like, just calm down. And we're going to talk about what happens to you when you try and calm down when you're actually angry. So if somebody steps on your toe, and you don't say ouch, and you don't ask them to move, and you don't get them to move, you're basically walking around with somebody having stepped on you, and your body will not let go of it until you resolve it. So yeah, Jody, did you have something too?
Yeah, even at the outset when she said something about bitterness is a cancer, and basically it's swallowed anger.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's yeah. So and then she demonstrated the need to get it out. I know, then you know.
Right. I know. And then you're going to know right away here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
that's
that was.
beautiful because I was just remembering that on my dad's side, his parents had really severe arthritis at the end of their lives. I mean, it really incapacitated them. So they basically couldn't function. And I was curious about where that came from, what that was about. And there's a connection between repressed anger and arthritis. And that sort of bitterness of not letting the anger burn through. That was one of the other things she said. There was so much condensed wisdom in what she was talking about, that anger burns out the resentment or things that you've withheld or repressed, so it leaves you in this kind of clean, that sends the fire through, so that you have a clarity of expression and of vision. So I loved it that I found that. Yeah, and Alice.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that connection because I came across, speaking of social media, another really interesting one that harked back to the 1600s, where I want to speak specifically to colonialism, and the legacy of patriarchy and colonialism are literally like that. And obviously Irish people, well, the culture is known for having a temper. So there's a whole relationship with anger that we could write, a lot around. But this particular um, observation was that in the 1600s, the Irish were being, again, trying to mount a sort of rebellion against, the rule. And it was mainly coming from Irish women. And the Ireland and the culture was seen as the feminine, and there were actually, cartoons, political cartoons that were being drawn up to sort of saying that the sort of British was the male patriarchal taking authority back by quelling these wild Irish women who were inciting their men to fight against. And here we are.
And here we
So,
are, right?
it's sort of very circular. And there's a woman, I think, that just wrote a book about it, and I'll look it up and put it in the chat. But
Oh, super.
I think it just came out December 24th, 2024, or something like that. So it's pretty fresh. But again, there's a precedence with things repeating, and also
Yeah.
this idea that women, and in the Irish culture, there was much more equality before British rule. So
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
the Brehon laws were very different, and the whole culture is very different. So it's interesting what's seeping up and what wants to be healed. And for a country
Mhm.
that's riddled with arthritis and very, very angry women, there's there's a lot to be said there. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said. I am going to go and shut this blind because the sun's not going down fast enough. I'll be right back.
And I'll look up for that, look up that link and put it in the chat.
All right, I'm back. Oh, much better. So, let's dive in. How do you know that you're angry? So, what are some, you can think you're angry, but that's always debatable, because if you can talk yourself into it, you can talk yourself out of it. And so I want you to open up to the body signals that let you know that you're angry. So some of the ones, and there's a distinction too between how anger moves through your body and how fear moves through your body. So I'd like you to think about a recent upset, and it may be one in which you're not sure whether you were scared or angry or maybe sad about something or hurt. Because here's another aspect of your feeling life is that you can be having two different or even three different emotions at the same time. So you can be sad and angry, and that's hurt. You can be scared and angry, and that can immobilize you because you can be scared of getting angry, and then you can be angry because you got scared, and they can run around together. So thinking like, oh, I couldn't be angry because I feel sad. You can have those at the same time. So if you think of a recent upset, I'd like you to notice what body sensations arise for you when you're thinking about that recent upset. So for me, I was just thinking about, I was at a conference last week, and part of there was a kind of a lab thing that they were doing in the evening. And I walked in, and all of the well, I walked in because I'm still walking with a cane. I'm recovering from long COVID, and so I'm a little wobbly. And I walked in, and there were all of the chairs were there were no chairs. They were all seat backs. There were circles of seat backs, and so basically there was no space for me. And I had this mix of feelings. I first felt sad, and then I realized that my cheeks were getting hot, and and I actually I felt my hackles coming up, like that's your anger circuitry is just like all mammals. It comes up your back, and you get your hackles up. So I had both of those. I felt sad and angry, and I realized, oh, I felt hurt. I felt hurt that I was kind of invisible to the group, and it also simultaneously gave me so much of a deeper understanding of people who are permanently disabled and their experience of invisibility. So I had all that whole mix of things all happen when I walked in the door. And so it let me know that we have an orchestra of feelings that are going on all the time in us. And so as you're tuning into your body sensations, we can help to identify, is that fear? Is that anger? Is that sadness? Is it a mix of things? Yes. So Venus, hi.
Hi, Katie. I really feel my jaw a lot, and the anger I'm thinking of is with my daughter-in-love, just said, you can't see the grandkids during the week. It's too much. And what I noticed, it's a dysfunctional relationship where I don't say it, so it rose and I choked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hacked it.
So that's such a great example. Thanks, Venus. That one of the things I think that people do a lot is swallow it, try to digest it, try to push it down. And I think that, and I'm sure the scientific evidence will emerge on that even more clearly, that it doesn't go away, it goes into your body and it creates dis-ease. So it's well established that anger, a particular kind of anger, when somebody steps on you, when there's a trespass, you are wired to register that, and that starts between your shoulder blades. There's been research on what happens to the muscle spindle. So at a very microscopic level, when you get angry, it starts between your shoulder blades, where for most people, if you just do a little bit of flexing and bringing your shoulder blades together and just notice, what's your sensation like between your shoulder blades? What's your area? And if you stretch and you stretch out, can you feel that stretching through your shoulder blades? So, because for most people, the area between the shoulder blades is the most unconscious area in the body. It's the area that is kind of off the nerve grid for people, for many people, because they've not experienced it, not expressed it for so long that it's become kind of numb. So if you don't experience and express and resolve the anger, it travels up. And it's well established too that if you get a certain kind of headache, a cluster headache at the back of your neck, it is valuable to ask yourself, what happened 4 hours ago? Because that's how long it takes it to get from your shoulder blades up into your head to create a headache. So if you have the experience of getting headaches, or feeling your jaw, you clamp down on it. No, so for me, that's one of them too, because if you're one of the expressions of anger is you've probably heard to bite somebody's head off, of that expression of anger. And when we repress that, it goes into our bodies. And there's actually John Sarno had his whole profession was about assisting people to resolve back pain by exploring and resolving anger. So there are a lot of established tracks for tracing what goes on in your back. Your low back, what I found is that the low back often has to do with old anger. So anger that comes from earlier in your life that didn't get a chance to get resolved. Whereas anger that's more current, you're going to feel more up in your shoulders, the back of your neck and your jaw, because everybody just go ahead and make hackles, get your hackles up. And if you can, snort. That's also really fun too. And see, notice what tightens up. So your whole upper body gets, ready to charge. I've seen my cats, particularly my cat Greta, she's our watch cat. And when there's, a possum goes by, or we have a neighborhood cat that strolls by, he's a black cat, we've named Biff, after Back to the Future. And he loves to torment Greta, and she hurls herself at the door to try to get at him. And that's a reflex that we also have. And so just ask yourself, when was the last time that you hurled yourself at somebody who offended you? So if you notice some body sensations, I'd love to have you share them so that we can get a sense of how you experience that. You can just unmute yourself and suggest something if you noticed a body sensation, or if you're curious about, I wonder what this is.
Fast heartbeat.
Fast heartbeat. Oh, I appreciate you mentioning that, because so now I want to talk a little bit about fear. So I think one of the big issues, especially for women and especially right now, is discerning between fear and anger. And that most of what we think we're experiencing that we think is anger is actually fight. And fight is fear. And we have so much of, fight back and let's all fight back and we need you to fight with us, that people don't realize that they're just doing the gerbil wheel of accelerating fear. So fast heartbeat. And did you feel any other sensations with the fast heartbeat?
Sadness.
I'm sorry, sadness?
Sadness, yes.
Yes,
And
yeah.
hurt,
So,
yeah.
and where did you experience that? Was it more in your face or in your high chest?
Oh, I'm thinking it was so long ago.
Ah,
It's kind of an ongoing difficult situation
yeah, yeah,
where it wasn't safe to express the anger,
yeah.
yet I did anyway and suffered the consequences.
Ah, yes, yes. And when I tune into you, Lydia, what I'm experiencing is a kind of a pulling down. It's
Mhm.
got of a heaviness. I'm
Yeah,
imagining that you feel some heaviness in, in your
remembering,
sorrow
yeah.
area that you're just carrying because you haven't been able to resolve it. And I want to invite you to let yourself just give a little loving attention, just even, putting your hand over that area and loving yourself for still feeling sad, and loving yourself for having the courage to speak up and ride out the consequences. Yeah, because that contributes to all of us, that kind of courage to step into the unknown, because the consequence, which we have seen demonstrated many times, is that you'll get killed. And so I'm glad you're still here. Yes, and Dawn.
Yeah, so I have realized that a quick anger move, like something that gets me really angry really quick, is someone bullying another person, or people on social media, like on Substack. Let's just give an example. So the other day on Substack, I was reading a thread, and it was really making me angry. And it was about one guy who had liked, they had thrown the person a bone. That's what they said. And they had just not had any likes. And so they had thrown them a bone because they felt sorry for them. And so this person, the writer, they were like, "Oh, what did you like about my writing? It's like, that's very important to me." So he removed the like, and he's like, "That's what you get." And I was like,
Oh,
that is not okay. And I just went on a a nice blast, and I was like, "Hey, why can't you give feedback? Why can't, we, like, as human beings, we be not assume, and why can't we, and then he was like, his response, it was so nasty, and he's like, "Well, people um should be able to take," and that was quite a long TED talk. And I was like, "Oh, I've always wanted the TED talk, actually, so thank you for that." But I felt so much better because I reread what I said, and it was not judgmental, it was not blamey. I was just like, "Hey, we should be better than this. We on Substack are all about a community, and it's safe in this community, and so we should be not afraid from projections or judgments or blame." And so his response, I was like, "I don't think I need to respond to him. I have all that I've needed to say to be said." So that was the first time I ever responded to something like that.
all right.
Yeah.
Well done. Well, what I'm also hearing in there, Dawn, is contempt.
Yeah.
And that's something that's on my list of things to express out into the open space, because the contempt is making people less than you. So when
Mm,
you add anger, you add bullying, and you add contempt.
yes.
What I didn't hear from you, though, was I felt angry.
Oh, yeah, I felt very angry.
But did you post that?
I said, "I feel sad." That's what I started off with saying.
Yes.
Yep.
So yes. So it's such a pretzel move.
Yeah.
We're trained to make these pretzel moves, but what's underneath that is I felt angry.
Yep.
I perceived you bullying, and I felt angry.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of, because I've been passionate about injustice my whole life. And I was in my classroom, I think I was maybe 9 years old. So I was probably in the third or the fourth grade. And the teacher was bullying one of the other students. And something stood me up, in my chair. And I said, "You can't talk to him that way." I was like, "Oh my God, who said that?" And, then I sat back down again, and he stopped. He actually, and it was, I mean, he could have, made me go to the principal's office or something, but I think it was the clarity of my just expressing clear
Mhm.
out. And so one thing I want to invite you all to practice is, I feel angry. And I want to suggest I feel angry instead of I am angry, because you are not. And what is it? Is it the Irish saying, Alice, where they say a feeling is upon me? Is that an Irish thing?
Yeah, yeah, all feelings are on you.
Yeah. So, and I love that, because when we say I am angry, we identify that anger, make it solid rather than that's something that is moving through. So I want to invite you to just say, and you can do this with lots of different tones because you're muted. I feel angry. I feel angry. I feel angry. I feel angry. And I want you to just notice, is there something that you want to add at the end? So when you say, I feel angry, then what happens for you? I feel angry. So are you able to then let that rest, or do you need to add things to it? Like, I feel angry because, I mean, it's really not your fault, but, I just am feeling angry today or so. So I want you to just notice if you're able to just stand in and be in your, I feel angry. I feel angry. So as I'm saying it, I realize that when I accept it, what it does is generate curiosity for me. I feel angry. And then I start getting curious about what's going on that I've had this reaction to. And then I can start exploring it. So was there anything that you noticed when you said, I feel angry, that you would like to share?
I'm wondering why I feel a need to say the why, to explain to the person why. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's good or bad.
well, I get curious about that also, that the why for me, if I'm saying why, I experience myself as leaving my own power and my
Mhm.
own responsibility. So Maya was talking about that's your job. She was like, it's your job to handle your stuff. And
Oh,
I think for, especially for women, we're supposed to take care of the other person's feelings, and so the why is really stepping over into the other person's responsibility space. That's my experience of it. And if I'm just saying I feel angry, and I don't explain myself, to me that's adulting. That's
that's a complete sentence.
That's a complete sentence, just as no is a complete sentence.
Mhm.
And I've often experienced that I have to have the why and explain, and that it's not forever, but it's no for now, and it's maybe a maybe. And then I've completely lost my own sense of my own
Ah,
authority.
oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you mentioning that, because my experience is that that's an addendum that many of us are acculturated to use, so that we don't get killed. So, basically. Yes, Venus and Alice.
I feel angry and almost instantly I feel scared.
Yes.
So unsafe to be angry.
Yes, this is part of why I'm wanting to share this and have us support each other in owning our anger and owning the power of anger, and the confusion, that toggle that you were describing between fear and anger, is, I think, very, very common. To have something happen that you feel outraged about, and then you also feel scared. And so really being able to discern that, oh, I feel angry and I feel scared, is incredibly valuable. First, to know that for yourself. Oh, I do feel angry and I feel scared too. And so it could lead you to some other. I'd like some support from my friends in dealing with this situation. I feel scared to handle it by myself. It can lead you to, again, then ask for support, so that you're not feeling isolated in your experience. And being able to discern and be able to express, I feel angry and I feel scared, is incredibly valuable. First, because you get to own your own, oh, this is what's actually happening, and you're owning your own authenticity. And that gets you into alignment rather than having all those cross currents going on inside you. So thank you for that, Venus. Yes, and Alice. Unmute. You're muted.
Um, I thank you for the prompt for the call back to the Irish and the way of feelings being on you. And I also want to just loop back to you highlighting Maya Angelou, because later she goes and says that she's handing the anger back to the person. And I find that that is so powerful, because I think one of your great tools is that sorting of files.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
what am I feeling? I said, am I feeling your feelings? Or, and that was, for me, that was
Mm,
a huge breakthrough. And I've been still working through this because it's so much in the soup today. Is not just the misogyny kind of levels of anger and contempt out there, but the internalized misogyny that I was carrying around with me,
yes,
that I've had to sort of literally uncork and sort of let it sort of spiral out of me.
absolutely.
And it comes in waves, and just this work is so powerful because it allows you to process it literally out of your system. That Maya Angelou's may have figured out, in the sense of just handing it back straight away. But
Yes,
the
and
rest is just like,
yeah, that I really appreciate you mentioning that. And I've done that actually, using my whole body. I'll gather up the anger and I will hand it back,
mm,
or I will, toss it out, or I will, let it through. And I was remembering years ago when I was at my parents' house, and they were having lunch, and it was all about repressed anger, and that was going back and forth, and sort of hidden digs and stuff with each other. And I went down to the beach, and I was doing my best. I talked to Gay over the phone, I think, and I said, I'm doing my best to digest this. And he said, well, maybe anger is not something you're supposed to digest. So if you have got, digestive issues, gut issues, I found that those are often about you're trying to assimilate anger that doesn't belong to you. And so, letting that out in various ways, I think is really valuable. Yeah, and Jody.
I appreciated what you were saying earlier about owning owning your power, and I, over the course of many years now, I don't I avoid saying you make me so mad, or you hurt me, or you make me so happy, because I love the undiluted power of, I'm having this feeling. And it reminds me of when Gay says that if you can stand next to a rhododendron and eventually develop sexual feelings. It's not about
Right.
we give that power away as well. And
Yes.
and I was thinking about adulting, claiming and owning, and I like my adulting unadulterated by giving somebody else the power for it.
Yes, yes, beautiful. Yeah, lovely. Great. And how are you calling yourself these days?
Me?
Yes,
Opal.
Opal. All right.
Yeah, I was like trying to dredge up something that I just remind myself of something that I felt angry about. And what's interesting is that I've been on a medication for bipolar that kind of dulls my subjective experience of all emotions.
Yeah.
And yet, what was interesting is when you had us practice I feel angry, and just saying that by itself, I noticed like a smile come to me and a feeling of like, yeah, yeah, I am angry about that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see like the medication doesn't remove emotion itself for me. I still have emotions. I just don't feel them subjectively, but they're still there, and that's comforting to know.
Uh-huh. And I'm making up a story about your smile, that there was a kind of an appreciation of yourself, an affirming of, oh, oh, I'm having a feeling, and I recognized it. And it was like an opening for you, is what I was imagining over here.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, so what happens if you don't let yourself discern fear from anger and you repress anger? And I was remembering the image that's clearest to me was in the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, which I don't know if any of you watched any part of them, but there were two interactions with two of the women senators, Amy Klobuchar and Dianne Feinstein. And when they were questioning him, he attacked both of them, really viciously, kind of name calling and, snarling, and both of them retreated. So both of them got smaller. So in the face of his bullying, both of them got scared. And I bet you if they had looked at the video, they would not have recognized the response. But the retracting contracting their own power from not being able to keep their presence in the face of anger coming at them. So that's a whole other aspect of how are you when other people are angry around you, whether it's justified or not, or even if it's not anger, because my sense was that was not anger. That was just more of an attack. It wasn't legitimate anger, but the attack they responded to with fear. And so learning how to then be with your fear, and we've done lots of play with fear melters. And so that's, I would love to see public figures doing fear melters. It would be so fabulous to going, oh, I just had a little frisson of fear there. And now I'm presencing myself and I have something to say about that. So recovering ourselves so that we're not having to, I don't know, like monitor yourself, that you can be friendly with yourself as these feelings roll through. So I was also thinking, what does healthy anger look like? Where are our models for healthy anger, the expression of anger in a powerful and grounded way? And I was just trying to think back over, gosh, where have I ever seen that? And currently, I would say it used to be my model for that used to be Cecile Richards, who was the former president of Planned Parenthood, because she had such a lovely combination of, she was incredibly feminine and soft and could also be very clear and express her anger in a straightforward way. And she had that mix, but she died last year from brain cancer, which was very sad. So today I was thinking that probably Elizabeth Warren would be a clear model for me of the healthy expression of anger, because she's able to be articulate in the middle of really dressing somebody down, and is able to presence herself and breathe and shift so that she has that clarity. Her voice doesn't get constricted. So, I know that she's presencing herself. So I invite you to be looking around and celebrating the people that you see who are expressing anger in a way that's clear and that allows others to have their own feelings, but to see that anger is about a fundamental injustice. And it's not that you can't think your way out of it. You can't adjust your way out of it. People try to eat their way out of it, or medicate themselves out, or drink their way, to repress it. And those do not make it go away. When you said, I feel angry, that gives a channel for your actual experience of anger to move through you. And if you let yourself be angry, my sense is that that's really the only force that can create lasting cultural change. It's not going to come from fear. It's not going to come from fighting back. It's going to come from mobilizing your anger. And when you mobilize, and it's really your pelvis and your legs that get mobilized to whoosh, let that anger through. So I invite you to let yourself play with, if I were angry, how could I express that in a way that really celebrates it, and that also speaks to the trespass, like somebody stepping on your foot, or the fundamental injustice, the fundamental unfairness that so many of us are experiencing right now. And I think that's what we're seeing with all of the not on my watch, kind of all of the protests that are going on right now. That's mobilized anger. And people, and I loved it. I was saying this the other day. I loved it that the signs that people were making were a way of turning that anger into creative expression, and also taking responsibility. I'm angry, and I'm angry too, and I'm angry, and we're not going to have this. We're not having it. So that whole expression, I think, is incredibly powerful to join with others, and then to have your fear melters and the support of others when you get scared, and to be able to discern those, I think, is quite valuable. Yeah, so we have Venus and Trisha.
When it boils out, it feels so strong. I think of Bernice Reagan Johnson and Sweet Honey in the Rock as one of my models. And I'm a
Yes.
singer. And so and they're still doing it, but when they're the height of the first round of putting children in cages, and I just started, it just boiled out. Don't take another child. Don't take another child. And, it goes on, but it's just,
Yes, because you're letting it through in creative expression, and also singing with others, and singing in ways that allow the force of the anger to really be fully expressed. Those are incredibly powerful, and create a change. And even if they don't create a change immediately, they're giving you that agency to move things in a different direction. Without that, I think that most of us will sink into a depression, and in a sense of what matters, what use is my one little voice. Well, there's that great cartoon about the one fish and the shark, and then all of the little fishes get together to make a really, really big fish. So when we join, yeah, when we join the other little fishes, we can make a really, really big whale of a fish. Yes, Trisha. Oh, Tracy, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of Sweet Honey in the Rock, Venus. I also feel that, and when I would see them, or sometimes I would just put their music on and dance to it, and it was such a great way to express anger for me. And that's a perfect segue, because what I wanted to say is that for me, it's so important to move my body and to kind of let that anger move through me. So like stomping and growling is one of my favorite things to do, or I have another kind of anger releasing with a ha sound that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so helpful.
Oh, so helpful. I think that's incredibly valuable. And what I've noticed in my life and in my work is that you cannot get all of the anger out. That there is an aspect of your anger that will only be transformed when you love it. So I want to invite you to love your anger, to value your anger, to love yourself for feeling angry. That because some of those things, like the things that happened to me when I was young, that I felt really angry about, that's already happened. So no matter what I do now about that, it's not going to change that, but I still feel angry about it. So loving that and being with myself in my anger has really allowed that last little bit to turn into agency, to turn into more vitality, to turn into more power in general, and to more what I call muchness, occupying myself fully, and also more spontaneity. So I think there's really a relationship between owning your anger and your authenticity and your ability to be spontaneous in the moment rather than being careful, because the opposite of free anger is being careful. And that being careful is all based in fear. So but I would love it if you have moves that really work for you, for like Tracy was sharing about really allowing you to experience and express your anger. I have certain songs that I like to put on. Like there's certain music. At the end of The Matrix, the first Matrix movie was that there's an incredible, I don't know if it was Do You Like Me Now, but there was this heavy metal ka-dong, 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 that I just loved. And I would just let myself stomp around to that. So music can be incredibly helpful to allow us to really embody that. Yeah, Rhonda.
Thanks, Katie. I'm really enjoying this actually. It's like, yeah, yeah, go girl. It's so like play fighting can be so fun, right? And it's kind of like a way of enjoying your anger, right? In a way that doesn't hurt, which is fun. But anyway, twice now I've been angry while like on a table in my doctor's office and doing everything I can to relax. And so I'm like way in my parasympathetic nervous system because I'm about to get an osteopathic adjustment and I really want to be receptive to it and completely not ready for what was said to me. And it's like I get blindsided because like I'm really in parasympathetic, which is such a sanctuary for me. And
Right.
it's like I relish those moments when I finally get there. And then I just like I don't have my brain turned on fast enough to like make a good comment back.
Right.
Like, and I was told to bring my heels towards my bottom. He wanted to put a cushion in between, so I could rest my legs over a cushion. And I put him like right next to my butt, because he said, well, towards your bottom. It's like, okay. Right. And he goes, you're a dancer. I said towards your, like made me wrong. And then you're a dancer. You should know. And it's like,
he contempted you.
So it's like, how do you, when you're like really receptive and relaxed and you get this thing?
You got blindsided. So it sounds like you have some cleanup there.
Okay.
Yeah. So
like I need to speak this out. I just was like quiet about it because it's like, I don't want to escalate this and I feel made wrong. And it's like, whoa,
so
can I
that's
just
such
go
a
back
great
to
example of, I don't know how to navigate this. So the clearest thing is I felt angry when I felt angry at your tone of voice. I felt angry when you called me a dancer. I experienced that as you bullying me. So I think it's really important for you to clear that up. I remember being at a dentist, this was years ago before I have my really good dentist now. And he was filling something and he actually cut my lip and didn't say anything about it. And I got anesthesia and I had this cut on my lip that I actually thought might make a little scar. And I was furious, at him. And it was really, so, it was something that I, because I was another kind of blindsided, something I needed to clear up. But the first thing I said, I feel angry. So this is the one that I want you to practice because, that locates you. I feel angry.
Feel angry. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm afraid that's going to escalate it.
Well, so
So then I need to get off his freaking table. Because-
Yes, exactly.
you know,
I have done that. I've said, this is over. I'm out of here. So it
and I
allows you
just
then to
spent
take action.
over $100 to get up off a table and get bullied. But then I know I shouldn't be coming back.
That's right.
Else happened sideways. And he said, gosh, it's been so long since I've seen you. And I just missed one because of the rain. And I called in enough time. They filled it, you know, like I was wrong for taking care of myself and not wanting to drive far distance. So it's like,
You
I
need a
so don't
better,
expect
you
it.
need a better adjuster.
Okay. And so okay, I feel angry, and then don't be afraid of escalating.
Well,
Just
listen,
get
you
up
will
off.
be afraid. So
Thank you.
this is the toggle there.
Right.
So we think, well, I shouldn't be afraid. Well, you are afraid. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, mixing in, letting yourself move, you know, particularly letting yourself wiggle, because wiggle is, you know, that's really wired into us as mammals. So wiggling is something that all mammals do when they get hurt. And so letting yourself wiggle, and also just saying, I don't even, I just sort of feel flooded right now. I don't even quite know what to do, but I know I'm angry, and I'm not available for the adjustment now. I'm just not.
Okay. Woo.
And this
Yeah.
is, you know, when we support each other in doing things like calling off, like, nope, this is it. No, I'm, you know, I'm off the table, or I'm out here, or I'm not going to continue dinner with you. So instead, we be nice. We sort of cover it over. We don't want it to escalate.
Right.
So-
Right.
And so then I'm taking way more than you're taking way more than 100% responsibility. And you're
Yeah.
not letting him know that that kind of a trespass is not acceptable. You know, I just really love that I'm not having it. You know, we're not
Yes,
having it.
she was clear.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you can just say, I feel angry, or I'm surprised, or I'm startled.
Yeah, I feel, or what I also practice, and this is why I was asking you to say how you notice you're angry, is that just naming a body sensation. Oh, like I just feel my cheeks just flushed, or I just felt my throat just close up. Those locate you. And then you're present again, you're presencing yourself, and then you can make a choice about what next. You don't need to fix the whole thing. It's just opening up the next step for you in supporting yourself from your own authenticity.
Okay. Oh, and something else. Thank you. I can just say, ouch.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
ouch.
Yeah, brilliant.
And it's
Because,
like, whoa.
yeah.
That gives
Oh,
me
yeah.
a
Ouch.
moment to
Whoa.
just,
Whoa.
whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, you can let your voice match what you're feeling inside, like, whoa. And
Didn't see
making
that
loud
coming.
noises is also powerful.
That helped. If the smaller, the better. Because in those moments, like, I'm still like, huh,
You're
that
not
just
in your
happened?
thinking brain, so you can't
No,
really
I'm
come back
not.
with a, you know, a
Yeah,
witty
a
retort.
smart quip.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Thank you. This is so helpful.
Oh, thank
Ouch.
you. These
And I feel
examples are just exactly what I wanted to get into. So I really appreciate it. That's wonderful. And we're
Thank you.
almost out of time here. So Alice, do you have a quickie?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to I just thinking about, you know, who's out there that is showing a strong stand, and you know, being able to lead in that sense, in a way that's, you know, kind of holding space for something. And I'm thinking more actually outside of America these days, because there's more examples apparently really out there.
Yes.
Christine Lagarde
Oh, yes.
is one phenomenal lady. Ursula von der Leyen is holding her own in a very tricky situation. And you know, I think it's and I don't want to brag about this, but I think
Oh,
the
go ahead.
Okay. My master's is in European Economic and Public Affairs, and I've always been fascinated by how people relate, and obviously to prevent war. The European community and the whole concept of that is quite a miraculous project. Just in holding, what were traditionally warring states with each other together in some sort of, unified way. And I think the shift this year has been so tragic because we're now shifting into a response that, the Ursula von der Leyen's have to now shift budget to create a military budget and pull out of the economy on top of what everything else is going on in terms of the economic shifts. But it's holding space for what the rest of the world is now trying to hold space for in the absence of the United States, while the United States tries to sort itself out, I think, in that whole experience. Another great and somebody that I've admired from my teenage years is Mary Robinson.
Oh, yes.
She's a former president of Ireland. She
Yes.
with a very, very patriarchal campaign just to become a president in Ireland. But she's foremost in climate change and still going strong, and she's kind of
Yes.
a bit dry and a bit boring because she's a constitutional lawyer by nature. But her poise and her holding space resolutely in that is formidable. So there are lots of really great models out
Beautiful.
there. One to shout out to to the men out there that are also doing amazing stuff. I would say Michael D. Higgins who's the current president of Ireland. He's a small little man, but he packs a powerful, poetic punch. He's not only just a politician, but he's also a well-known poet. So he blends this. I would say he's a great example of anger to a creative endeavor. So I think there's something there that anger, to me, and I've noticed this well up to me, is that something wants to be created, and it isn't this, it's something else.
Yes.
And so, I think it'd be great to shift the conversation to what the anger is actually showing us where we need to go now.
Yes. It can turn into what I call forging. So
Yeah.
fight can also turn into forging and mobilizing your anger to create a shift. And for me, it comes out of I'm not having it, and I'm shifting my attention over here, toward this, rather than being in the interaction of I got to make it better and shouldn't escalate. But the power of taking a stand really comes from occupying your full emotional continuum. And so I think owning and loving your anger is a very important part of that. And that's what I am in exploration of myself. And I appreciate you being on the journey with me here. And Jody, did you?
I just had an image of a baby spitting out food, and it's like, I'm not having it. It's just like,
beautiful, beautiful.
And I had an image of forging a sword.
Yes.
Forge.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Great. And if you have any others, add them into the chat here so we can have them. So thank you. And until next time, thanks for being with me in the exploration.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.